Let's look at two pop songs and one classical piece and how they approach this idea of balancing periods. Links have been provided on the course page, so feel free to pause this video and listen to those as needed. We'll start with U2's With or Without You, here in lyrics and chord form. This is a pretty standard pop song. You have a small intro, then a verse, chorus, repeat until done. Here we can label the verse as period A and the chorus as period B. Very standard for pop music. Since we're just repeating over and over, this form is essentially an A-B form, also known as binary form. Keep in mind though, for binary form, the constant repetition is not necessary. Some binary pieces may be just an A, a B, and a double bar. Moving on to classical for a minute, let's look at the theme from the Theme and Variations in Mozart's Piano Sonata in D major, K284. From the pickups to the repeat, midway through bar 8, we have a clear A period with antecedent and consequent phrases. These are literally textbook, making the first part the A period with phrases A and A prime. After the repeat, we have another antecedent and consequent phrase, but there's a really interesting thing going on here. We start with entirely new material, so we'll call this phrase B, but then we repeat the A phrase again with a slightly different ending. So we'll call it A2. This means that our total form is as follows. Large scale, this is A, B, A, with repeats around the A period and the BA period group. This form is commonly called rounded binary. In this, you have a full A period followed by a B phrase and then 1/2 of the A period, usually the consequent phrase. If it was simply an ABA form with a more balanced B section of 2 phrases, no return to only half of the A period but to the full A period, and no repeated period groups, just literally ABA, it would be known as ternary form. Don't be ashamed if you are confused by this one. This takes a lot of practice to distinguish between rounded binary and ternary. Finally, we'll look at the Beatles song, I Want to Hold Your Hand, a deceptively simple song based on the use of a verse, chorus, and contrasting bridge material. Starting off, we have a verse and a chorus. That's then repeated immediately. These can be considered to be the same A phrases. We have A, B for the chorus, A prime for the verse, and B again. Keep in mind the chorus is always the same, so we're just going to use B here for every chorus, no need to make it B prime. Moving on, we get to a bridge section that's followed by a verse, chorus, and then another identical bridge. This would be phrases C, A2, B, and C. Finally, we repeat the last verse and chorus one more time, a direct repetition of phrases A2 and B. Okay, that's a lot. Formally, it looks like this. Notice that there's a lot of repetition of phrases there. So let's group some of these together to make larger sections. Phrase A and B always go together, so I'm going to label that as period A. But what do I do about these C phrases? Technically, they're interrupted by an A period, but they're not really strong enough to stand on their own. We'll collapse everything between the C phrases into one large B period. That will give us the following. This A-A-B-A form is really common in pop songs, going back as far as the 1860s with German art songs, and then growing in popular pieces by composers like Stephen Foster, and later in Tin Pan Alley. It's so common in these songs that it's usually referred to as song form. One final and major point to keep in mind. It's really rare to come to a complete stop between periods in a piece of music. It does happen, as in the A to B period transition in the Mozart example, but that's really more the exception than the rule. Typically, composers will elide the phrase, continuing musical motion over the end of a cadence or phrase to keep the music from stopping unnecessarily. There's nothing worse than a crowd starting to applaud and then getting psyched out. Unless it happens repeatedly. And again. Maybe one more time. You get the idea.